Okay, everyone, hello and good afternoon. I think some people are still connecting, but in the interest of time, we should probably already get started. So we will quickly look at the agenda for today. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to the policy and CEF eDelivery in general. Then my colleague João Rodrigues-Frade will go into the message exchange infrastructure, namely looking at message exchange models, discovery models, the security models, and then we will look at technical specifications, sample implementations, and have a Q&A at the end. And you can also, by using the hashtag CEFDigital, ask questions and engage with us online. Okay. So by way of introduction, I'm sure many of you are aware that this is just one in a series of webinars that have taken place over the course of this year. We've had sort of more general webinars where we've looked at what the key benefits and rationale of using eDelivery are. We've had information sessions, for example, the information session on the AS4 messaging protocol. We've had extended eDelivery expert groups, including a wider range of stakeholders, and specialized webinars, for example, looking at the link between eIDAS and CEF eDelivery. So we're very happy that you've chosen to join us today to look at how CEF can help you set up an eDelivery infrastructure. Just to introduce briefly who's going to be talking to you today. So my name's Thomas Fillis, I'm the Director General for Informatics, and I will be moderating and doing an introduction. This webinar will have João Rodrigues-Frade, who's head of the CEF building block sector in the Director General, Mr. Adrian Ferreal, who is the Technical Officer and Leader of CEF eDelivery, and Martin Daniels, who is the Lead Tester of CEF eDelivery. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we go in. We hope that you will be engaged in this webinar, and for this we have some quizzes, some questions as we go along. Through the chat function that I can see most of you are already making use of, you can ask questions. And at the end, the presentation will be instantly available. And following the webinar, we will publish a recording, and you will be able to interact with the community, i.e. with people who've joined you here today and wider members of the eDelivery community on the CEFDigital portal. So with that in mind, in 2014, the digital single market was highlighted by President Juncker as being one of the 10 political priorities of the European Commission. And basically this was to address the problem that Europeans still face barriers in terms of accessing and using digital public services online in different member states. And that in the digital context, markets remain overwhelmingly national, and that only 7% of EU SMEs are active cross-border in the digital context. So by way of solving this, the European Commission and EU member states undertook a number of initiatives, and they looked at data protection, they looked at increasing online sort of people's digital skills, and it was also identified there was a need for efficient cross-border digital public services connecting Europe. And the foreseen, or one of the foreseen benefits of achieving this interoperable and interconnected Europe is a projected 415 billion euros to the European economy. And the digital single market consists of a range of policy initiatives, and one of the key instruments in place underpinning this is the e-government action plan, the current action plan running from 2016 till 2020, which is looking to basically digitalize services in the first place, ensure that they are interconnected and work across borders, and that people are able to engage in them. And within the e-government action plan, there is a commitment for the European Commission to lead by example and become an early adopter of the CEF building blocks. And therefore, the e-government action plan is a very important in the rollout of the building, especially in the context of the European institutions. At a wider level, CEF eDelivery is part of the CEF digital program, putting in place the CEF digital, CEF DS, digital DI, digital service infrastructures. This is one component of the telecoms aspect of CEF, and CEF also funds cross-border programs in the area of transport and energy. In terms of regulation, there is regulation itself establishing the Connecting Europe facility, which includes all the different various programs, as well as the CEF Telecom guidelines and the Commission's work programs, which we'll deep dive to in a moment. Within CEF Telecom, you have the, as I just mentioned, the digital service infrastructures. And what are these? Well, they're basically ways of allowing funding to be appropriated to support the creation of cross-border digital services. There are those we call the core service platforms, which is where funding is made available for the Commission to provide services to the member states directly, and this typically runs for 4 years. Or you have the generic services, by which we mean grant funding is made available for projects within the member states themselves. So thinking about the work program, you can see here that you have the annual attributions of money for the generic services, so the grants, and this is done on an annual basis, and this will be done up until 2020. And the core service platforms are done on 4-year basis. So in the context of the digital service infrastructures and the core service platforms, i.e. services, and the grants, the generic services, there are a number of DSI currently in place. We have what are called the sector-specific DSI, the sectoral DSI, and what basically means is the use of these building blocks services in particular policy domains or in specific policy initiatives. For example, in e-health and e-procurement, or, for example, in a more concrete context, in the online dispute resolution, whereby a program or service created by the European Commission's Justice Directorate General reuses services supplied by the CEF building blocks. So you have the CEF. So the next to that, you have the CEF building blocks: eID, e-signature, e-translation, e-invoicing, cybersecurity, and, as we'll be concerning ourselves with today, eDelivery. But they all have common underpinning principles that have to be met to ensure that they can be considered CEF DSI. They need to be cross-border in their application. They need to deliver services by digital means. They have to have a sufficient maturity. They have to contribute to the goals of EU policies. They have to have a plan in place to become sustainable and comply as much as possible based on market-driven open standards and technical specifications. And there are two key instruments available or used to deliver these DSI and for collaboration around these DSI. So for the core service platform, we have the CEF digital portal. That's the website CEF Digital, which also contains, in addition to the outward-facing website, whereby you have all the software and services and help desk information, as well as general policy information around the building blocks and access to supporting documents. You also have the communities and collaborative spaces where development is done, and this takes place on CEF Digital, so that's ec.europa.eu/CEF Digital. And the grants are housed on the website of the Innovation and Networks Executive Agency, INEA, where grants for CEF Digital, CEF Telecom, CEF as a whole, and other programs are all based, and where you will actually submit the submissions for grant funding. In terms of the calls that are open now, we currently have e-invoicing and e-translation. E-invoicing actually contains within it a relevance to CEF eDelivery. So whereas the e-invoicing call itself supplies grant funding to help recipients put in place the appropriate technical solutions and organizational setup to process electronic invoices, if this includes the deployment of an access point or operating an access point for 1 year in eDelivery, this can also be supported with grant funding. If you want to deploy a service metadata publisher and operate a service metadata publishers for 1 year, then eDelivery funding can be used in this context. And if you want to update data exchange solutions, then this call for proposal is also relevant to you. So what is eDelivery? Well, eDelivery is a message exchange solution which enables you to securely exchange data and documents, which is of more relevance, obviously, to public administrations, but also businesses and citizens. In terms of today's webinar, we are going to look specifically at the design phase of setting up a CEF eDelivery infrastructure, which we'll go into in more detail, but it looks at the design message exchange model, the design recovery model, the design security model, design and integration approach, the participating in writing of an SDD, and proof of concept. But we'll go into that in more detail. And we'll just highlight before I finish that at the end of this year, from the end of November into early December, we will be holding the CEF eDelivery and CEF eDelivery DSI Stakeholder Days. They're 3 days, each with a specific focus. On Tuesday, the 29th of November, on the eDelivery Infrastructure Day, we'll be helping users set up their eDelivery infrastructures, so a continuation of some of the discussions we're having today. On Wednesday the 30th, which is the eDelivery Industry Day, this will, among other things, be a forum to discuss what is currently missing to create an eDelivery market in the context of the Digital Single Market Initiative. And on Thursday the 1st of December, there will be the CEF e-invoicing day, which will look at various activities that have been underway in the context of CEF e-invoicing. So we really encourage you to sign up, and of special relevance to you attending here now, the CEF eDelivery Infrastructure Day on Tuesday the 29th of November, I think will be very relevant to you. So now that hopefully I've set a bit of the scene and provided a bit of background, floor over to Zhao, who will take us into the next part.